So I'm not entirely sure what the people in Games Workshop's pricing team were smoking, but it seems they've managed to release a new shiny plastic kit that's actually slightly cheaper than the one that's currently out. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about some of the Horus Heresy pricing details, and I must admit, at least on paper they do look pretty interesting. The new Rhino variant is somehow slightly cheaper than the current ones that they have on sale right now, and the heavy weapon boxes combined with some Legion tactical squads looks like they could be one of the cheapest way to get your hands on Devastators and Havocs if you do want to stick to Games Workshop bits. We'll talk about the Rhino first, then all these heavy weapon bits, and then go through the other releases, including the Kratos tank, Big Box, Ahriman, and the rulebooks. So first up, and perhaps the single most surprisingly good price, is that this new Deimos pattern Rhino will be £28, 47 US dollars, or 37 euros. It's certainly not the single flashiest kit around, it is just a basic transport with a few extra pintle mounted options on top, and the aesthetic is the older Heresy era design. Some people might like that more than the current standard one. I think a lot of people will probably just prefer what they know. Really though, I'm just genuinely quite surprised that this bucks the trend of Games Workshop plastic releases. Just about whenever they come out with a new plastic kit, it has to be at least the same price as the similar kit that they had before, or it has to be slightly more. If we compare to the current Rhinos available for 40k models, you've either got the standard or the Chaos Rhino, both at £30 or $50, or the Sister Battle Adeptus Sororitas Rhino, going up to 35 or 60. It does mean that if you wanted a Rhino for your Space Marine forces in 40k, then this is now the cheapest way to get one directly from Games Workshop. And it does look, at least from side-by-side comparisons that I've seen, that it seems to be fairly similar to the standard ones, and it doesn't look like it's weirdly smaller or anything. It doesn't even feel like it's massively lacking in other bits compared with the other kits. All the other Rhino kits do come with some extras, but this one looks like it comes with a decent amount of pintle mounted options. You get the standard combi bolter that would fit in for a storm bolter on the top chassis, and you also have a heavy bolter or multi-melter gunner which might come in handy on other kits potentially, as well as the multiple missiles of a Havoc launcher if you want to run it for Chaos and field that option. It's really quite nice to see Games Workshop actually making the generic transport a bit more freely available and easy to pick up. It's a bit sad comparing this to the Primaris Impulsor, which is also your basic default troops transport, and that costs you an extra 50% more money than this. If you were looking to it as an alternative for the 40k sculpts, there are a few positives and negatives. I'd say the standard Rhino still could be construed to be better value. It's a little bit more expensive at £30, $50 or €40, but I would bear in mind that it comes with the Razorback gun upgrade frame, the ones with the las cannons and the heavy bolters, meaning that you could magnetise it to be a Razorback if you wanted, or if you are feeling just a little bit industrious, you could just resell it on eBay. Just from past sales, it looks like the Razorback gun upgrade sprue goes for around £10 or 15 US dollars, so it could be a better way to save you a lot of money on the Rhino transport if you can be bothered with that. If you're not interested in the Razorback or the FAF though, then admittedly this new one is cheaper. I'd say it perhaps compares even better to the Chaos Rhino. I think the Heresy era aesthetic really does fit the Chaos Space Marines, as they're perhaps more likely to have a whole load of tech left over from those Dark Ages. It even has its alternative Havoc launcher, so you can still field it with that. The main thing that the Chaos Rhino gets you is all the nice spiky trophy racks, so I guess it depends whether or not you want to go for the more spiky aesthetic. I think perhaps the biggest clear saving though is for the Sisters Rhino, which already superficially resembles the Heresy era one. The main extra things that you get with that are some more sculpted armour panels, so admittedly it is looking a fair bit fancier than a standard Rhino that's built for Space Marines, and you do get the Sister of Battle manning the Stormbolter on the roof, so if you wanted to use the Deimos Rhino as a stand-in, you'd just have to assemble it without a roof gunner. I think saving £7 or $13 though could be enough to tempt at least some people to get that one over this. In general though, it's just very nice to see Games Workshop pricing things a bit more reasonably. Maybe even they are realising that they might be getting to a point where charging so much for a basic transport means it's going to put off people jumping into armies in the first place. Next up in the potential good value news are the prices for these heavy support boxes. These are ones that I was really quite interested in, where you get either 60 special weapons or 20 to 30 of the heavy weapons, and at least the ones going on sale this week are either £26, $42 or €34. I believe that the only ones that they have on sale at the moment are either the ones for the heavy bolter and missile launcher, or that big cluster of special weapons. We don't yet know that if the price is for the 30 sets of heavy weapons, things like plasma, heavy flame and multi-melter, autocannon, las cannon and volkite. We don't know whether they'll be the same or slightly higher due to having more heavies. I must admit I do feel a bit conflicted about the price for these. For the missile launchers and heavy bolters in particular, it does feel kind of off to be charging over £1 or $2 per small plastic bit. But on the other hand, at least in the context of Warhammer, it is actually pretty helpful to have quite a lot of useful parts without any padding. It does genuinely mean that if you want to spam a whole load of Devastators or Havocs, then this looks like it could be one of the cheapest ways now. Just going into theory crafting for unit building, you could get a couple of squads of Tactical Marines or Chaos Space Marine boxes to get you 20 Space Marine bodies, and then take one kit of these heavy weapons, and then use the combined parts to assemble them in 4 squads of heavy weapons, each with a regular guy and 4 heavy weapon bearers in the unit. Overall, that approach would cost you £91, $152, or €119, and even less if you could get discounts somewhere. That's for the Loyalist version. I think it will be slightly more for the Heretic Astartes, as Chaos Marines cost a little bit more than Tacticals for some reason. I'll admit there are downsides to taking the approach. I'd say that the models aren't quite as nice as standard Devastators or Havocs. You don't get a bunch of fun extra details like the sculpted backpacks and things, and all the guys are going to look at least fairly regimented. It's not like the Devastator and Havoc kits don't come with a fair few extra heavy weapons themselves, so you could use that to kit bash a few extras if you wanted out of other squads. Committing to 4 squads means that you'd be breaking the rule of 3 in a game, though I guess equally you could just assemble 3 squads of Devastators if you wanted to use them all, and assemble the last 5 as Tactical Marines, or just assemble them all and have one squad that you could swap out each game between missile launchers or heavy bolters. Finally, the way they're packaged with another specific heavy weapon means that if you wanted heavy bolters but not missile launchers, it could be a little bit unhelpful. Though I guess I'm sure you'd have takers if you did decide to pick up the kit, use the heavy bolters, and sell off the missile launchers. I'm sure you'd have demand from people who wanted the missile launchers but not the heavy bolter bits. Just theoretically though, if you did get 20 Devastators for £91 rather than buying 4 boxes individually, you could at least in theory get it for 35% cheaper, which really isn't too bad if you are wanting to put down some mass heavy weapons. I think potentially though the really good news would be that if the Legion tactical squads with 20 men in them are really as cheap as they might be, then that could easily be the cheapest way to get heavy weapons on the table. Games Workshop hasn't officially announced the price yet, but some leaks for prices in euros implied that they'd be £47.50, $80 or €62.50 for 20 bodies, meaning that 20 Devastators or Havocs would cost you $73.50, $122 or €96. Again, in theory land, that would be almost half off compared with just buying regular Devastator or Havoc boxes. Finally, last but not least, an even better saving might be made from this new Age of Darkness box set. That comes with no less than 40 Tactical Marines with the beaky heads. For a lot of people that might well be more than you want, so when the box inevitably gets sold in individual bits online, I strongly suspect that you'll be able to get your hands on 20 beaky Tactical Marines for far less than £47 or $80. If you can snag a squad of them on eBay or even just splitting the box with a friend, then mass Space Marine heavy weapons could be pretty easy to deploy indeed. I must admit, I think that the boxes are pretty handy. I just really like the idea of snagging basically an entire Space Marine firebase for potentially something like £50 or $80 once you've taken into account discount retailers and maybe a bit of eBaying. Finally, we'll just take a look through the other Horus Heresy releases. While the Rhino and the Heavies were offering some pretty decent value, the Kratos tank is perhaps even more than I was expecting, £75, $125 or €100. I was hoping they might price it similar to the Primaris Repulsor Executioner, but this is significantly more than that. Definitely a bit more of a luxury buy, a lot more on form with Games Workshop's major centerpiece plastic releases, and I'm looking forward to reviewing its 40k rules when they came out, as a lot of people corrected me when I last talked about it. They have now actually officially confirmed that it will be getting a 40k datasheet, so quite cool that it's another thing that you'll be able to use in 2 systems if you want to. We've already talked quite a lot about the Age of Darkness box. It's £180, $299 and €225, exactly as rumoured, and as we've talked about a few times, I think it does represent a really good deal. It's far more plastic than you normally get from Games Workshop for the same price. It amounts to around about a 50% discount on something that kind of equates to a 2,000 point Space Marine army if you want one. I think it'll be very popular indeed, and not just for people playing Heresy. though just the asking price in itself is pretty expensive for any box of models, even if it's a really good one. Finishing up, we've got the re-release of Mr. Ahriman and these new Astartes books. Ahriman's £19, $33.50 or €24, a bit cheaper than a fair few of Games Workshop's more recent character releases. Though I suppose as he goes he's a relatively small character and not that flexible in options, though I think that the actual look of the model is very cool indeed. If you did want to pick up Ahriman for Thousand Suns and you didn't want to field him on disc, then this could give you a decent saving and a very cool alternative sculpt in my opinion. Finally, it's £42.50, $70 or €55 for the big Horus Heresy compilation books. They're the massive tomes for the Loyalist Legions and the Traitor Legions respectively. Fairly in line with what I was expecting there. They are basically the same sort of size as the main 40k rulebook, and they are priced as such. So anyway, as always, I'll be interested to hear what you think. I'm just mildly impressed that they've actually managed to release some new plastic kits, and actually do so in a way that reduces prices slightly on a couple of core units in their range. Quite nice to see compared with the usual process of just put up the price slightly with every single release. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to hear more about Games Workshop's news and releases, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly keep the regular videos coming just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way in which you can help support and also save some money on Warhammer, and that's my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description. Element Games is a UK-based discount retailer. They usually give 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's miniatures, so it can save a bit compared with buying direct. If you click the link before ordering, a small amount of the money goes to help support Auspex Tactics, and it doesn't cost you any more whatsoever when you buy. Can just be a small way to help support if you were thinking about buying something anyway. For people over in the USA, I do have a very similar link for Amazon as well. That also works basically the same. Click the link, buy literally anything off Amazon, Warhammer or not, and a small amount goes to help support the channel at no extra cost to you. Could just be something to think about if you were thinking about picking up something anyway. A big thank you to you guys who have been using those, and a massive thank you for listening. I'll hope to see you guys next time.